Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reviewing the movie Dune.
Face your fears. Come with me.
If you're not familiar with the Dune franchise, it was first a series of books. The first book was published in 1965, and there was even a 1984 movie, which this is a remake or reboot of. And there was the popular video game in 1992. I think I probably played that video game once, but I can't remember exactly. And Dune is what actually inspired Star Wars, the whole space adventure with the desert and a lot of that stuff. As you know, Star Wars has Tatooine, the desert planet. And this movie is actually supposed to be the first part of a trilogy of movies. So it should be 3 movies that they're making. And this movie should be the first one, because when the movie starts, it says Dune Part 1, right? So let's go ahead and jump into our review, and I'll start with the things that I really liked. First on my list is the cinematography, how this film was shot. It looked so nice. I really liked everything about it. As you know, I'm a videographer myself, so I really enjoyed that kind of stuff. And I also like the music, the score. It was done by Hans Zimmer. He's the same guy who scored the Dark Knight trilogy, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Returns. He also did Man of Steel and a host of other movies. Those are some of my favorite scores from him. I believe he did he do Wonder Woman 1984? I think he did Wonder Woman 1984, but I really like his work, really enjoy it. He always has that epic touch with his scores, right? And the action in this movie is real intense. I like it. I really did enjoy the movie. I really liked it. The scope, how massive the world was, it's out in space, everything is bigger than what we're used to here on Earth. Here on Earth in the sense of a movie. And you can feel the premise of the story is the host Atreides versus the Harkonnens, right? They're like the villains of the movie, and you can really feel the hatred towards the host Atreides. That's the family that we're following. The guy's name is Paul, Timothee Chalamet. We'll get into characters after this, but you can definitely see that there's a war coming between the two houses, or between the two factions, however you want to look at it. There's definitely a war coming in the sequel. They definitely led up to that, or were building up to that. They got a big attack in this movie that I really felt it. But I have to tell you, as much as I enjoyed this movie, it was so slow, as in the build up to all the action and the intense drama. It was really slow. At one point my wife was saying, she was next to me sitting and watching it with me, and she was saying well, this movie is really taking its time picking up. And yeah, it did take its time. And I was looking forward to this movie, so I sat through that. That didn't bother me. But for the average person, that slow build up may take you out of the film, and it may leave you wanting more. But it was slow to begin with. I have to tell you that it was really slow. And I liked it though. I still liked it, but I thought I'd just let you guys know. So the star of this movie is Timothée Chalamet, right? He's Paul. He's playing Paul, and he's a prince. He's a very cool prince. I believed he was royalty in the way he played the character. He seemed very powerful with his skill set that he was developing, that his mom was training him in, even though he didn't know he had it. He's just been having these dreams, and his dreams are basically like prophecies, like visions of things that are to happen, right? He can see in the future, basically. He can see in the future, basically. That's how I thought of it. And it was cool to see him mastering this very power, the thing that he and his mom has, this speaking thing where they talk and they can control people's wills, right? And one of the things that I really like about him was when he had when he was watching the history lesson of the planet that they were on, and it came out like a 3D hologram PowerPoint presentation. And I really like that. That was pretty cool to see. And Timothée Chalamet is setting up to be a huge movie star. He's only 25 at the time of recording this video, and he's starring in Dune. He'll be playing Willy Wonka, the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory reboot. and they just started filming that. So his career is really taking off at the moment, and he's done a lot of stuff before Dune. So if all goes well with him, his future should be bright in this business of movie making. And the next I want to talk about the king, Oscar Isaac. He's also one of my favorite actors. He's very cool and collected. He's a very calm king. He wasn't very arrogant. He got really upset when they tried to kill his son, that little bug from hell that came through the wall. And speaking of bug, how did that guy who was controlling the bug, or seemingly controlling the bug, how did he end up in the wall? Did he go in the wall and then like build back the wall around himself? That was weird to me. And when the Duke said, when they were out on the front and they were waiting for the people to come to give them to like sign over the planet to them, and he told Gurney to smile. And what was so funny was that when Gurney smiled, or when he responded, he said, I am smiling. But the actor who plays Gurney, we'll talk about him, is Josh Brolin, and Josh Brolin obviously played Thanos in the Marvel movies. So when he said I am smiling, all I heard was literally Thanos speaking. So that was pretty cool to me as a movie fan. So as I said, I liked Oscar Isaac here. He was in X-Men Apocalypse in 2016, I believe. He played Apocalypse. He was in Triple Frontier with Ben Affleck and those other guys, and he was also in the last 3 Star Wars movie, right? He played Poe Dameron, I believe his name is. So he's really cool. I really like him in this as well. And why were him and Paul's mother not married? That's weird, because he's basically a king. So I assumed her to be the queen. But as it turned out, when they revealed they weren't married, but they have a son together who was an adult. So it was kind of weird, because he even said it that right before, when they were going out, before everything started going sideways, he even said to her that he should have married her. So why it just seemed weird to me as a duke or king, why he wouldn't be married to the lady. But they did say she was one of his concubines, so I guess that's the culture there, right? When he died with the tooth that the doctor gave him, we'll talk about that doctor as well. The tooth that when he bit on the tooth, and then the gas and the poison, and I felt that, because I really liked him in this, and when I saw that he died, I was like, whoa, they really just killed Oscar Isaac. But what's weird is, I heard in the trailer, when the trailers were coming out, that I just have the trailers on repeat here, so that's why I'm looking over here, and I also have my notes here. When in one of the trailers, Paul had said, Timothee Chalamet's character said that they're picking off my family one by one. So I assumed that either his mother or his father would have died in the movie, and I guess that's a little bit of a spoiler. You shouldn't put that in your trailer, but I assumed one of them would die. So, but I did feel it, because he was cool. I liked him as the king or the duke, but he knew it was an uphill battle when they took over that planet, Arrakis, because he was saying that it's basically an uphill battle, right? He knew that they set them up for failure because of how they left the planet. It wasn't in good condition for them to pick up the task and start harvesting the sand, the spice. That's the currency of this planet. The sand, it's like a desert planet, and the sand has like spices in it that are really powerful in this universe. So they're harvesting it with these big like harvesters that dig up sand and stuff, and they extract the spice from it. So that's the whole premise of why they're there, but they had left it in a really bad condition. So the Duke knew, he definitely felt it, that there was something bad that's going to happen. And as I mentioned earlier, the villains, the Harkonnens, they hate the Duke's family, who are the House Atreides, right? So I definitely felt it when the Duke died. I really did. Now on to Josh Brolin, Thanos, Gurney. He was very cool as well. He's a great fighter, obviously, because he's training Paul. He didn't like the Harkonnens. He knew they were savages. He knew they were bad news. I was wondering where he went. Like, when the Harkonnens attacked in the middle of the night, right? Which was not cool, to attack the planet in the middle of the night when everybody's sleeping. I knew he charged at them with a sword, and he said, with me, because he's the commander, he's leading the army. But where did he go after that? We didn't see him die on screen, so are they going to bring him back in part 2 or part 3? That was weird to me, but I was really wondering where he went, because they didn't kill him. So I was like, should I assume he's dead? I don't want to assume he's dead because everybody else dies. The Duke dies and Duncan dies. We'll get to Duncan as well. So yeah, I was just wondering where he went. And the mother, Lady Jessica, Paul's mother, played by Rebecca Ferguson. She's basically a witch, based off of the other ladies that in the middle of the night that she was talking to, and the way they were talking to her, she's a part of their what do you call that? She's a part of their group, and they're basically witches because I got that vibe from them. They're really creepy. In the way they speak and stuff like that. She does a lot of stuff late at night, but she loves her family. She loves her son. She doesn't want anything to happen to them, which is normal. But I don't know why she kept all of this from Paul. You know, the prophecy that he's this great warrior, or what's the word? I can't remember it. I can't remember what Paul is. There's a prophecy about him, right? That speaks about he's this great warrior. When he comes, he's gonna be, you know, the one that's gonna save the people and all those stuff. So yeah, she didn't really tell him about it, but he found out eventually. And other people actually knew that who he was. They were expecting to meet this person someday. But yeah, she was cool. I liked her. She's from Mission Impossible, all the movies with Tom Cruise. She plays Ilsa. So yeah, she's pretty cool. I already liked her from Mission Impossible. And Jason Momoa, Duncan, Idaho, Aquaman himself. I cannot believe they killed him. I know Paul had the prophecies, right? He saw him dying with the Fremen. The Fremen are the local people to Arrakis, the sand planet that I was mentioning earlier. They're the local people there, and he had a vision that he saw him there among them as a native. But then when he told him the second part of the vision, he said he saw him dying or dead. So when I saw that, I was like, whoa, all of Paul's visions are actually coming true. Are they really going to kill Jason Momoa? But I'm guessing because Jason Momoa has the Aquaman movies to make, he can't be a part of another huge franchise like this, because this movie is huge with all these actors in there. But I thought he and Paul had a good relationship. It was like an uncle and nephew relationship, and I definitely felt it. Especially when we thought he was dead the first time and he got back up and continued fighting. I was like, whoa, that hit really hard. Paul better fulfill this prophecy and be the special one that he's chosen to be, or they claim him to be. He's like the one, like Neo from the Matrix, right? And then the Doctor, the betrayer. He is the Judas here in this movie. I kind of felt sorry for him when I heard why he did it with his wife and all that. But he killed the king, right? I mean, he went too far to me. Like, killing your king, I understand why he did it, but it was a little bit too far for my liking. But especially seeing that he just ended up dying because he trusted the Baron. I don't know why he trusted the Baron. We'll talk about the Baron as well. But he must have known that you can't trust these guys. These guys are bad news, right? Everybody knows this. So it's just weird. But I felt sorry for him though, but I don't know if I can forgive him for what he did. He killed the king. I mean, he did give the king that tooth, right? To cause the poison gas, right? But at the same time, the price is too high. The price was way too high, right? Because he basically caused the fall of House Atreides, right? So, but I mean, he's cool. He's alright, I guess. He didn't get to see his wife. His wife didn't get to see him either. But that's just sad, so it's fine. And the Fremen. The Fremen are the local people of the planet Arrakis, as I mentioned. You know, Zendaya is a part of the Fremen, Javier Bardem, and the other lady, the dark lady with the dreads, as well as the guy, James. Let me just brush over all of these people. If you're watching this movie to see Zendaya, you won't see her. She's barely in the movie, and the most of the time when you see her is in Paul's visions, right? So she's barely in the movie. And Javier Bardem, Stilgar, he was cool as well when he came and spit on the table. And they thought that it was an insult, but it was actually a greeting. And then Duncan said, no, he's gracing us with the moisture from his body. That was weird because I initially thought he was spitting at them because he's offended by them and he's insulting them, right? But no, it was actually an act of respect. Liet-Kynes, I don't know how to pronounce this. Liet-Kynes, the dark lady with the dreads, who she knew about the prophecy, right? Because the moment she saw Paul, when they were giving him the armor, and she gave everybody the armor that they make, which captures your sweat and your body's moisture and then recycles that so you can last a longer time in the desert. Everybody, she had to be fixing the armor that she gave them. But Paul, he knew how to fix his because obviously he was already having visions about this armor. So he already knew how to assemble his. And the moment she saw that, she was saying, what did she say? She said like she uttered a line from the prophecy that said he would act as if he's one of them, something to that extent. But it's basically, she's basically reading like a scripture of Paul. She just said it out loud, right? And so that was cool. And I can't believe she died. Here I was thinking that she's really important because she's gonna help them. She gave them the armor. It's pretty cool. And then when she was in the desert toward the end of the movie, when she planted that thumper in the desert, in the sand, she put the thing in the sand and it just like went boop, 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 boop. And that vibration is gonna attract the sandworms. We also talk about the sandworms as well. And she took out the harpoons. She had stuff in her hand that looked like harpoons or hooks. And the first thing that came to my mind was, is she gonna ride a sandworm? Is she gonna try and latch on to a sandworm, right? And I didn't even realize that was in the trailer, that people could actually ride the sandworms. The Fremen could actually ride the sandworms. So I was so certain that she was about to have a really, really cool moment by riding this sandworm. And then they kill her. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you kill her after she seemed like very interesting, because even when Jason Momoa like left the night, not Jason Momoa, Duncan, why am I calling Jason Momoa? His name is Duncan in the film, right? Even when he left the attack, when he escaped in that one ship, she's the first person he went to, right? And then she helped them, she gave them refuge for a little while. So I'm like, why would you kill her? She seems very integral to the story. But they did kill her, and in the end we did see a Fremen riding a sandworm. So I thought they robbed her of that moment. She should have gotten that moment. They didn't need to kill her. But yeah, that's how I felt about that. And the other guy, James, I cannot believe he died as well, because if Paul had like 4 prophecies or 4 visions, and we know his visions are basically prophecies of things to come, right? All his visions came to pass, right? And his last vision in the movie, he saw this guy, James, telling him, or telling someone, we interpret it as telling Paul. He's telling Paul that, because remember, Paul is an outsider to the Fremen, right? He's telling Paul that, hey, I'm going to teach you the way of the desert. You're going to be able to master the desert. I got your back, right? So when they were going to duel, when he challenged Paul, and then while the challenge was happening, we found out that it's a challenge to the death. He can't yield, because Paul was saying, do you yield, when he had the knife to his throat. And then Stilgar said, no, he can't yield. So I'm like, are they seriously going to kill him after we just saw him in the vision? Paul saw him in the vision telling him that he's going to train him the way of the desert, etc., etc. And they killed him. I'm like, this makes no sense. Him and I can't remember, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but her name is Sharon Duncan-Brewster, the actress. Like, when they died, I was like, this makes no sense to me. But let's continue. Let's not dwell too much on it. And so those were the Fremen characters that I liked. The Harkonnen, the pale guys, the pale orcs, to make a Lord of the Rings reference or a Hobbit reference. Dave Bautista played Beast, Rabban. We could have done without him. He was barely in the movie. He had like 2 scenes, just complaining to the Baron. I like Dave Bautista, obviously, from Guardians of the Galaxy. He was in that movie, I Spy or whatever. And he's Drax, right? It's Dave Bautista. He's cool. He's funny. He's a tough guy. But he served no purpose here. We could have done without him in this movie. Unless they're going to write him to have a bigger role in part 2 and part 3 of this Dune series. He serves no purpose here. And then the Baron, Stellan Skarsgård. He's so weird. He's so creepy. I didn't watch the original Dune movie from 1984. I haven't seen it. And I am sure this version of the Baron is creepy. He just looks so weird. And then when he was hovering across the table to the Duke, you know, right before the Duke bit on the tooth, he was just like hovering across the table. I was like, is he flying? Or does he have like some, because you know he has the things in his spine, the red things. So I was wondering if he was just like levitating with something lifting him up, but he was like legit flying. I was like, all right, cool. And that made him even creepier. And then he's just like big and he's just creepy. So I think Stellan Skarsgård did good with that. But I could not believe he survived the poison gas from the tooth, because when I was watching that scene when the Duke was sitting there on the table, you know, when they took off his clothes and stuff, I was like, is he gonna use the tooth? But if he uses the tooth here, it's gonna kill the Baron. And the Baron is like the big bad. He's the leader of the Harkonnens, right? So I'm like, are they really gonna kill all these important people in this first movie? So when he survived, I was like, okay, that's good, because he like floated up into the ceiling, and they showed him afterwards just like curled up being weird. But that was definitely creepy. And then I want to talk about some other cool stuff, you know, the VR shields, the blue shields, like the hologram shields when Gurney was training Paul. You know, when you get a hit and it works, it's blue, but then if you get a hit that's possibly fatal or seriously injure you, it turns red. So that was pretty cool to see. And then the dragonfly ships, you know, how they're not propellers. Are they propellers? The wings, when they would vibrate and then they would stop vibrating, so the ship could dive or make these weird maneuvers in the air. I really like that. So I think that was very cool as well. And then when they were flying, when Paul and his mom were flying through the sandstorm, and then one of the wings stopped working, and then because it has 4 wings, it could have used the other 3 to just like glide, but then when the other wings got destroyed, so that was really a really cool use of those wings. I really like the dragonfly ship. And as I mentioned, the midnight attack that the Harkonnens did on the house of Atreides, I felt that they were all being slaughtered. They stood no chance. I mean, they were all sleeping, right? But what I found weird is like, for such a vast force in space, because House Atreides is obviously they're like the royalties, right? Why don't they have soldiers on night watch? I found that really weird. And they got slaughtered because of that. So maybe it was their oversight, maybe it was their arrogance that they didn't need to have anybody on night watch, but they definitely learned their lesson now. And the big flying carrier ship, it reminded me of Star Wars, you know, the one that carries all the smaller ships and all the soldiers. It looked really Star Wars-esque when I saw those. And then the sandworms, how terrifying are they? They are so big. How do they move that fast for being that big, especially moving in sand? They're like so big, but they're moving so fast. And that one scene when Paul and his mom were running from it, right? And then it just came up out of the sand, and that's the first time we saw one. And it's almost like it was standing there looking at Paul. Do the sandworms also know the prophecy of Paul? Like, it's just weird, because I was like, why would he stop? I'm sure the little rock that Paul and his mom were standing on, the sandworm could have just ate that up. So that was weird, but the sandworms are definitely terrifying. It will be interesting to see how they make Paul interact with a sandworm, if he could control them with the thing when he speaks in that voice. I'd be interested to see if he can control them, because that would be really cool. And in the trailers we saw this scene with Paul in the golden armor. I can't believe that was just a flashback or a prophecy, a vision he had, right? I really expected to see that big final battle in the movie. I mean, we did see it. It was a vision, but I was expecting like an epic battle in this first movie. But I guess they're teasing us with a whole lot. That's promising as a fan, because I really like these big epic movies. But it left it was lacking. It made the movie feel lacking, and I wanted more. So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like that. I feel like they could have given us a whole lot more for how big this movie is. And Paul also says in the trailer that they're picking off his family one by one, like I mentioned earlier, and I don't recall him saying that in the actual movie. And I know this is part one of a trilogy, but personally to me, I really think that this movie ended way too abruptly. Like they were just walking and we saw the person riding the sandworm, and then the movie just cut to black. I'm like, that's it? I couldn't believe that's it. I mean, the Marvel movies and the Star Wars movies, they all have these bigger stories that they tell across multiple films, right? But each of those films has a starting and an ending to their story, right? While still connecting the wider universe. But this one, like, I know it's a part one, but you like, is it that you didn't know that you were gonna have a part two? Obviously you did if you call this one Dune Part 1, right? So why would you end it that abruptly? It was weird. I really thought that was weird. So is it worth seeing in theaters? If you can do so safely, yes, because it's a beautiful film. So yes, it sounds awesome as well with the score and the music, you know, the tribal yelling when something cool or something dramatic just happened or is about to happen. That was really cool. I really like that. But it's also out on HBO Max now. So if you can stay home in the comfort and safety of your home and watch it on HBO Max, then watch it there as well. But you really don't have to go out of your way to see it in theaters if you don't have to. That's perfectly fine for me. So let me know what you guys thought of my review of Dune. Was there anything that I missed that you want to talk about? Have you seen it? Are you going to see it? Let me know in the comments. Once again, my name is CJam. Thank you for watching my movie review, and I will see you guys in the next video.